You're good, Scott.
We're live.
Welcome everybody to the National Pledge meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Betty, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns.
Here.
Mr. Walters. Ms. Meyer.
Here.
Ms. Meister.
Here.
Mr. Babel.
Here.
Ms. Bolton.
Here. We have a quorum. Before we move on to the actual agenda, Mr. Walters is down with the stomach bug, and having had that myself, my sympathy is with him.
Norovirus.
He didn't have virus.
Going around.
So I'd like to get a motion to excuse his absence for tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Bolton,
Second.
second by Ms. Meister. Would you call the roll, Betty?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Ms. Meyer.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Mr. Babel.
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Okay, our next motion is to approve the minutes from February 12th, 2025 council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve that, or is there any discussion that council members have, questions they have on those minutes?
Can we approve both of them at the same time? in
Yeah.
one motion?
I wasn't at the one meeting, so I wasn't going to.
Oh, okay. Well, then we should keep them separate.
There are no questions. Do I have a motion to approve the February 12th council meeting minutes? So moved. Moved by Mr. Babel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meyer. Any discussion? Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Ms. Meyer.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Stay.
Mr. Babel.
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. Now I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes from February 15th, 2025 council, special council meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Meister. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meyer. Are there any questions? Any call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Ms. Meyer.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Babel.
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0. We're going to move on now to the pay ordinance 03-2025. Before we go to that, our world traveler has returned from a cross-country trip to Seattle.
It wasn't really a trip.
It is.
I went with my son that transferred from Connecticut to Seattle from the Navy. We had to get his car there. So he went to Cincinnati last Wednesday. We left Wednesday after school and got there Monday afternoon. Yes, I don't even know what. And then I flew home yesterday. So we went 2,950 miles.
Just to take a car.
Yes, to take a car. But it was beautiful. A beautiful trip.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you. I did a lot of work in the car.
You did do.
I did.
Any questions on pay ordinance that council members have?
I was just wondering if it would make sense for the pay ordinance to be sent ahead of time. That way, if any questions were needed, they'd go straight to Cindy before the. I mean, I don't usually have any, but some.
Yeah, I give them to you about a week before.
Yeah, I mean, it just, that way we don't waste time during the meeting.
Is that something you want me to send to the council?
If you could, it'd be great.
Yeah, I'll just, when I send it to her, I'll send it to the council at the same time.
Yeah, that way, if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to you.
That's not a problem.
And get it answered.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve pay ordinance 03-2025?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Bolton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meister. Any further discussion? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Ms. Meyer.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Mr. Babel.
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0. We're now to our point where we have public comments. We're gonna address the council today, we ask that you register with the village clerk prior to going to the podium. Is there anybody here who wants to speak before we go on to the mayor's report? So if you want to come to the podium, at least give us your name and if you would, your address, please. Already got filled out?
No. I don't want to give my address.
You could probably just give your affiliation if you're speaking on behalf of.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Come to the podium, please. Before we begin, I'm going to read our statement. The Village of Cleves values community input, encourages participation. While we welcome passionate viewpoints, we ask that all comments remain respectful and free of disruptive behavior. Our goal is to maintain a constructive and professional environment. Thank you for your cooperation. Go ahead.
My name's Andy Messer. I'm speaking on behalf of the Three Rivers Community Athletic Association. I am the president of the organization. I'm also the baseball director and instructional basketball coordinator. There's a lot that I do. I have had board meetings with my folks, kind of talking about what Cleves is doing with the baseball fields, softball fields. And we just thought it was in good faith that we show our support just as much as you guys are showing yours with the amount of effort that you guys have put in to the park. It started really getting going last year. Saw Chuck out there cutting grass a lot. Kind of piggybacking off of the Reds organization thing, us collaborating, with our numbers so you guys can be able to do your thing. So we're appreciative. We do have, I've talked to the village administrator about possibly holding a tournament. So it's this year. We have to put a bid on it. And it'll be girls softball. We've got to start somewhere. They will go to a meeting. They'll discuss. From my understanding, the GWAC will come down, look at the fields as well, just to kind of confirm, no matter where they play, this is just, making sure everything is on the up and up. So I just, want to say thank you. And with that, we're going to present a check tonight for $2,500, just to, show our appreciation and hopefully that we can continue to grow this relationship. I understand, we're putting a lot of time and, effort in that park. I think out of all of the Monday through Friday practices, TRCA is not filling all but 10, which is pretty good. It could be filled. I don't allow our T-ballers to practice, probably because parents will hate me. It's just because they're literally 45 minutes on a Friday night. And our coaches' pitches are at one practice a week. So realistically, we could fill it up the entire thing. Justin's been able to kind of do some things with that as well. So thank you, and I'm sure Miss Ozer gets this nice check.
Andy, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Very much so.
How's that go to parks?
And we're out to the Village of Cleves.
In the park, right? Park's fun.
Donation. So anybody want to make that?
I mean, if you don't, I'll take it back. If you do.
I'll make that motion.
Vote makes motion to accept the donation.
Second, providing this specifies park,
I don't think it has to, but
because we put it in.
even if it was parks, it would be made out to the Village of Cleves.
Going in the park.
So it states on the memo aspect of it, for baseball and softball usage. So
Okay,
If we put it in the minutes that it's for park.
if you put it in the motion, that's fine.
Second that.
Yes.
You second that, okay?
Ding, ding.
Any further discussion? Eddie, would you call the roll?
Mr. Burns, Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
And Andy, thank you very much for the village. We appreciate it very much.
over the last few years.
Yeah, so you're up to Jack all trades. I see him everywhere.
Should have, Penny, I assume you had enough copies of this draft here. And I do want to apologize if I'm not a professional speech person. I will do my best to deliver this, but technically by Ohio Revised Code, the village mayor is to give a state of the village report. I think Mr. Babel told me today that this is the first time he's seen this. So what I'm trying to do here, this will be going on our website. I probably have some things we gotta clean up. Because Cindy and I were working on this on her excursion west. There was a lot of exchange here and there. But I want everybody to know that delivering today's State of the Village address comes with great pride and a deep sense of responsibility. Really, if you've been here in Cleves for a while, you know we faced numerous challenges. We faced a lot of them this past year. But due to the unwavering dedication and support of our village council and community, we overcame many of those obstacles and achieved remarkable progress. Today, I'm honored to share the challenges we faced, the progress we have made, and the challenges that remain and our vision for the future. But before I begin, I want to thank our Vice Mayor, Jerry Meister, who has served this village, and I may have this wrong. What was it, 14 years? Do I have that right or not?
Yeah, I think that's in the truth.
14 years. She nearly didn't run this past election. She was pretty disillusioned and very fortunate that she is here. Previous councils members weren't always appreciative of some of the insights and things she was asking to have happen in this village. But I'm going to tell you, from being here for 1 year and having watched her many years before that, her guidance and experience have been instrumental in making this transitional year a success. So thank you, Jerry. I also would like to acknowledge somebody who's not here tonight, and that's Todd Williams. Todd was a councilman for many years here in the village. He resigned earlier last year. And just so you know, he and Kevin really provided the type of cohesion we needed as a council. We came together tonight at our new village administrator, to my right, Justin Havey, to replace our former administrator. They and other members of council participated in lengthy and exhaustive interviews this summer. That decision has already proved successful, as requests that have sat idle. I think Ms. Meister could tell you a list of those have been accomplished in just 6 short months. However, the Village of Cleves Council in 24, while they face significant challenges, the gains that we made set the foundation for 2025. So I want to give you a little background. Our first challenge when we started last year was budget uncertainty. As most of you will remember, our former fiscal officer, James Brett, and the mayor told us that if the village did not pass a 7.0 mill levy, we would begin 2025 with $312,975 carryover balance. Our new fiscal officer, Cindy Osu, needed time to review the books. She found numerous unpaid bills totaling over $60,000. As your mayor, on January 10th, 2024, I pledged to our citizens, knowing that our village lost that $330,000 is a little bit less than that. I'll get into that in a second. Of income each year since 2021. Excuse me. I told them we would not go back to the voters until we knew where our budget stood and that we apologize for the council of 2021's failure to make the community aware of a renewal levy. Renewal levies generally pass. That levy did not pass, failed by 3 votes. And I'll get into a chart later that shows you what impact that had on our community. But we need to prove to our citizens that we're serious about meeting the needs of our residents. We took a conservative approach under the leadership of Linda Bolton. For those of you that aren't aware, she served as our fiscal officer. How many years, Linda?
18 wonderful, glorious years.
18 years. So she gave us a lot of background to help us look at this budget. What we saw did not indicate that we were in a financial crisis that our old regime had painted. But we weren't sure. We honestly did not trust the figures until we received our second draw from the Hamilton County Auditor, and that didn't come until September 2024. I'm pleased to report that our carryover budget for 2025 is $1,519,562.73, not the $312,975 projected by the old council. We were told in 2023 that the village's revenue in 2024 would be $587,000.35, or our actual revenue for 2024 was $984,757. And I think, Cindy, I was doing the calculator checking your numbers. Okay, but you were right. On the way out to Seattle. Our actual income included $450,000 and $474 in property tax, interest earned from investments, local government distributions, plus an inflationary bump of about $63,000 in property taxes due to reevaluation. Now, those numbers may sound good. They're going to sound sort of bad at the end of this, because honestly, that's not a lot of money to run what we have to do in this village. Our second challenge was coming into a government infrastructure that was missing. You'll see three things there. You'll see the Planning and Zoning Commission. You'll see the Board of Zoning Appeals. Then you got the judicial gavel. Basically, all of those were gone as we came in this last year. They had not functioned since 2020. I'm not going to read word for word, but I will tell you that the decision to disband our village police agency and replace it with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department led to a transition. And I'm not blaming the Sheriff's Department, so let me be real clear. All Sheriff's Departments in the state of Ohio do not enforce ordinances by villages.
Local ordinance.
I'm sorry?
Local.
Local ordinances. They do not. They actually enforce only the Ohio Revised Code. And that causes some issues because we're a home rule village. That may not mean a whole lot to a lot of you, but the home rule gives you the power to sort of control your destiny to a certain extent. Under the Ohio Constitution, villages and municipalities can make laws beyond the Ohio Revised Code. For example, the Ohio Revised Code allows citizens to discharge a firearm on their property if they do not threaten harm. A village, conversely, can pass an ordinance making it a criminal offense to discharge a gun on your own property. This type of offense is a quality of life offense. Other quality of life issues include excessive noise, and we get complaints about that all the time. That could be anything from people playing music too loud, or the dog barking, or somebody's fighting and arguing at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And yes, that actually does happen. Excuse me. One of the unintended consequences of disbanding our police force in 2020 was the village's inability to control those quality of life issues. While our village had a zoning enforcement officer, we could not enforce the writing of his citations. We had no place to send it to. The mayor's court was disbanded because nothing was being cited in the mayor's court. So when we took office in 2024, we inherited a village where zoning infractions went without penalty or enforcement. That was very frustrating for one of our council members, who's not here tonight. He believes very strongly, and so do I, and I think most of council believes that we owe it to our citizens to make sure that you don't have a junkyard operating next door to you. I'm pleased to report that under the leadership of Councilman Gary Walters, we have a fully functional zoning commission that meets regularly. We also have reinstituted the zoning appeals board, which will hear civil cases starting this year, cited under our zoning ordinances to our zoning appeals board. That is because we have reestablished a local police authority and a true partnership with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. And I mean, it's a true partnership. Justin still is a licensed police officer as our village administrator. He will be overseeing a very small footprint of a police department. But for the everyday citizens, your number one go-to is the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. That's who you call. Hopefully in April 2025, we will again be able to cite our criminal cases to our mayor's court, and the zoning appeals board will hear civil citations under the watchful eye of a magistrate hired by the village employees. So we feel pretty good about that issue. We also had another issue, challenge 3, our village website. For those of you that did not know it, it wasn't turned over to us, nor was our email. And I'm not going to go through every little paragraph here, but we have a brand new website. It does a lot more than our old website. So maybe that's a good thing. The biggest problem we have as we went through this, and I know our village solicitor worked on this, and so did Justin as our village administrator, was we do not have control of all documents in the village going back to probably about 2018. That's the problem. And I know we've already contacted the Ohio auditor because we are supposed to be able to give public records requests, and there may be some we're not able to give. Challenge number 4. This is probably one of the most significant ones, and it impacts some of our residents who I think are sitting here tonight. And that's the Ohio EPA violations and ensuring the maintenance of our village stormwater infrastructure. In March 2024, we learned that the EPA had cited the village of Cleves in 2022 for failing to apply for an MS4 permit after withdrawing from the Hamilton County Stormwater District in 2014. Village Administrator Ray Hall hired Choice One Engineering, and I will say it publicly here, they were hired without any knowledge of any member on council currently sitting. They had no idea that had taken place. Our engineer historically was JMA and Jennifer Batter, and we've nothing against Choice Engineering, but we've gone back to our original engineer. Once we learned it, I did meet with Choice One Engineering and the Ohio EPA in late March 2024, and they were very helpful. I want to emphasize for our residents, they could have been fining us significantly once they found out. They probably should have known before 2022, but they actually thought we were still part of the Hamilton County Stormwater District. When I talked to our representative at the EPA, she notified me that the village had a legal obligation to notify the EPA that we had withdrawn. That never took place, and that representative is Michelle Flanagan. She is assisting the village right now with our current engineer, Jennifer Batten, in addressing our deficiencies, completing a draft for final approval. Later tonight, our council will vote on the new ordinance to be included in that plan. Ms. Batter, Mr. Havig, and Mr. Knupp and I will meet next week to finalize the report, which is due on April 1st, 2025. Unfortunately, merely writing the plan and submitting the mandated report on April 1st, 2025 is only the tip of the iceberg for the village of Cleves. Since withdrawing from the Hamilton County Stormwater District in 2014, the village has done very little to maintain its stormwater infrastructure. That includes all catch basins, detention ponds, and outflows from the village to the Great Miami River. That should have been happening every year since 2014. It began happening this past year. That doesn't mean some things weren't done, because I don't remember the year, Jerry, but I think you remember the year the last time Morgan Creek was dug out. Right about the time we got out. Yeah. But since then, it had just been filling up with silt. If you take a look at the picture here, you will see a detention pond. If you're not familiar with what a detention pond is, I didn't know either, okay, until I actually came across one of our residents who brought that issue up. And may be aware of what they're designed to do. They are designed to not hold water. You see the detention pond here has water in it. It should not be holding water. If it's operating correctly, that will not happen. The Coleman Woods subdivision opened in phases in the late 1990s. It was designed by the developer Cleves Corporation with detention ponds placed on private property. That doesn't happen anymore. Okay, they're generally not put because homeowners associations take care of that. I live in Coleman Woods. On my deed, there is a mention about a homeowners association. It does not exist. It only exists on the actual deed. The Trees Corporation should have organized the meeting before they left. They did not. But I can tell you that I've spoken to them, I've written letters to them, and they have no intention of holding a meeting for Coleman Woods residents. However, I want to be clear for everybody who's here in this audience tonight and everybody who lives in Coleman Woods. Excuse me. There are 6 detention ponds in the Coleman Woods subdivision. 4 of them are failing. They are retaining water. All 6 detention ponds are situated on land owned by 17 residential families. Some of them go across property lines. I believe these 17 families bear an unfair maintenance burden and financial burden due to the collective runoff from all property owners in the Coleman Woods subdivision. Yes, every single person who lives in Coleman Woods, their water, the erosion that goes with it, winds up on somebody else's property to maintain. I have a feeling if most people understood that, they might understand a little bit better. It'd almost be like somebody saying to you, you know, I want to occupy a bedroom in your house, and you owe that to me. I know that's not what property owners are thinking. Quite frankly, I was unaware. I moved here in 1996. I was unaware of detention ponds at all. But all of these have a major impact. For example, if you've never been down when Morgan Creek is running, and when it was full of silt, it endangered the properties down here in the village of Cleves. These ponds are designed to control water, so that doesn't happen. Most of our detention ponds are going to be found on Roseland Drive, Edgefield, New Pine, and a new private driveway off of Edgefield. When the village of Cleves was part of the Hamilton County Stormwater District, our residents and businesses were charged a small fee on their property tax, averaging about $10 per household and higher for villages. We have not paid that since 2014. Every other Miami Township resident has. It's not really a choice whether we actually maintain things. Currently, because we've not been charging, we have had to pay for that out of our general fund. As a result, all maintenance costs comes from there to repair our stormwater infrastructure. To give you an example, this past year we had to replace 6 catch basins at a cost of $4,000 each. That probably should have come out of a stormwater fund that the village had in a special account dedicated for that purpose. I want to reemphasize, since 2009, all new subdivisions have been required to maintain detention ponds to cover the maintenance costs. So really, our residents are getting squeezed. And I think we may have a couple here tonight, and I'll let them comment when I finish. Excuse me. Morgan Creek is a crucial part of our stormwater system, and it receives water runoff, silt, debris, further complicating our drainage issues during heavy rains. Removing the silt like we did in December will have to be repeated periodically to prevent flooding of homes in the area during heavy spring and rain downfalls. Below is a picture of the water carrying erosion into Morgan Creek last December. You can see the mud coming down the hill. I might also tell you, Cleves was like the wild, wild west in 2021. There should have been cut and fill permits that were being filed. There were stormwater regulations that our village adopted back in 2014 that were not being enforced as far as erosion control, not only on this particular property, but also on new development, including where Ronies is located and also Skyline. So we've got some significant challenges here. I can tell you, having walked properties, I have concerns about the long-term stability of Edgefield Drive. If you're not aware, over on Timberline, okay, which is pretty close to where you live, I got a report just recently about property that there was a condemned house on because of slippage of the ground. Evidently, somebody's trying to build a house in that same property. That property owner walked away from their property, gave it to the bank because they could not afford to repair the foundations. And we have residents right now whose property, their yards being washed away, okay, off of runoff. And some of those actually also have the detention ponds on their property. So this is not a small problem. It is a major problem. Moving on, we also have a challenge of our fire contract. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the fire contract, but I do want our residents to know that I stand by what I said in spite of what has been said by others. Miami Township wanted and still does, if they can get it, a 62.5% increase to continue a contract for EMS and fire services. We have been very quiet about this as a village. We haven't been discussing it publicly. I wish the same had happened at Miami Township meetings. That is not the case. But we can't control what goes on in other meetings. We can control what goes on in this meeting. And so we have decided, because that's what you normally do when you negotiate. We don't negotiate in a public session, and we're not going to. But I do want you to know that the Village of Cleves has a permanent fire levy. They wanted us to put on a levy last spring that would have brought in $159,400 and $2 million, and we said no. And there was a reason why we said no, not because we don't believe we need to pay more. But we also knew after Cindy gave us our figures that we could pay for it out of the general fund. Not forever, but we could do that. So there wasn't a need to go back, nor could we actually go to our residents and tell you with any, I guess, I won't get it right, with any detail, let me put it that way, what the money is going. At this point, the only thing we know is what we've been told. Challenge number 6, village equipment was in disrepair. I'm not going to read this whole paragraph. You can read it later. You can see what we've spent. But I will tell you, when I talked to John Cannell last winter, not this past winter, but my first winter as mayor, he said, Chuck, I don't know if this bed's gonna make it. He goes, it's all corroded. And I said, well, let's go to council. He goes, oh, we can't do that. I said, what do you mean we can't do that? If you have a bed that's not gonna get you through this winter, what about next winter? We took it to council. And this is back when Tom Williams was still on council. There was no problem. Our council was fine. We spent somewhere close to $23,000 for a stainless steel bed. Our truck only had about 20,000 miles on it. It was still working well. To go out and buy a new truck made no sense financially. But I think our service department was so conditioned under old leadership, and I'm not talking about the council, I'm talking about our village administrator, that you just didn't ask. Well, we spent a lot of money this past year for this village. Some of it's not listed in. Those of you that drive US 50 should remember the cutting back of the overgrowth along US 50. That cost this village almost $9,000 this year to do. Should have been done many years before, but wasn't being done. So yeah, our equipment is old. Last year, Andy will remember, our Kubota broke down twice, okay, as we were trying to maintain the fields. Challenge number 7, cost of the sheriff's department contract. Here's some good news for you. In November 23, as mayor-elect, I instructed village administrator Ray Hall to refrain from discussing police services. He ignored my request. We signed a 3-year contract in 2024, and last year our cost was $266,047. What's sort of good about this, especially after Justin came on board, is we actually began talking and communicating. So I'm just gonna skip over this for a second. You can read it, but if you go to this page, if you have this, there's a bar graph. And that bar graph represents 3 stages of cost. Excuse me. The green, okay, is what we actually paid in 2024. If you notice in 2025, that's going to go down. It's going to go up slightly in 26, and it's going to go up again in 2027. However, you got to understand that the old contract is the blue area. So when you compare it, what the cost would have been, you got to compare it to the blue line. You will notice in 2027, it's still cheaper than what it was in 2025. So the end result is he's already saved us a lot of money. The village brings in $80,288 in its police levy. The rest of the contract, including gasoline, is paid from our village general fund. So every penny that we saved in that area, it's in there. You can read through it, has helped this village financially. Challenge number 8. This goes back to Andy and TRCAA. They depend on the ball fields for their teams to practice. There's just not enough ball fields in the area. And if you've not been out there in the spring, those fields are packed. The village faces significant challenges during the spring. The fields have had low spots for years that fill with rain to form multiple lakes, making the fields unavailable. Additionally, the grass quickly grows in the spring, and when you cut the fields, there's huge clumps of grass. Excuse me, we worked hard last year and spent over $4,300 on ball dirt to fill those holes in. And if you can take a look at the pictures, you can see Norm Rutherford last fall. Dawn's husband was out there working on those fields also all the way into October. And we made it pretty well through this winter, even with a flood. And it's my understanding, Andy, I don't know if you've been out there, have you seen the fields recently or not?
Been locked, so
Been
no.
locked? You said they're gonna be ready when?
We're expecting to start practices on Monday, 17th.
With the fields being in playing condition, or I think you've got, are you doing foul poles and stuff like that? Chico, what else is going on there?
Yep, we purchased over $2,000 in new equipment, permanent home plates, permanent bases, pitching rubbers, we're installing foul poles, new storage box that we'll share with our community partners, one being TRCAA. We'll also consider a dedicated piece of equipment, a field drag to better manicure the fields. And we'll also be filling another part-time service worker position to cut the fields raggedy.
Our goal is to make sure that our park continues to bring in money. We had a very profitable year last year. And we'll thank Daniel back there. He was our park manager last year. And I'll get into a little bit more of that later. But our goal is that we work together with TRCAA. And I think, Andy, you will probably agree in the past that was probably something that wasn't received well on some in the village, not all, but you got support on council. You know who they are. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Another challenge we had was pedestrian safety on North and South Miami, and I don't want to give you any idea. Those are the only areas. Porter Street is a mess with the way people drive along Porter Street. But we started on North and South Miami. And those of you that have come to the village, you have probably seen the flashing crosswalks. We put one over by CT Young, and we also put one right out here by the skate park so people can actually get over to the senior center without getting hit. Although I came close the other day with the lights flashing, I had a pickup truck slam on his brakes out the hit. They drive way too fast here. The cost of the village was $12,937. That's not a lot of money, and it does give us data. And Justin runs the reports. It gives us speed, the number of cars, the time of day, which allows us and our safety committee to talk with the sheriff's department, and we can be more precise about what times visibility will be helpful. The next challenge, repairing our streets. I would love to tell you we nailed that one. We did nail that one. The village of Cleves is not to a position to repair streets like we would like to do. The picture you see to the left, I took that picture tonight. Okay, that is what Edgefield Drive looks like. It's crumbling. It was repaired, sort of, a couple of years ago. We did similar repairs this past year on Walmsley Avenue and also on Morgan Street. Those repairs aren't going to last. Those streets need to be replaced. We did try to get funding for Edgefield. We were denied. And honestly, we just don't have the budgetary means to pay for $350,000 to repair it the way it should be repaired. Nor do we have $2 million to repair Walmsley. So we've got some work to do. If we really ever want to do that, we're going to have to convince our residents that we need a street levy. Because once you have a street levy, you score more points for grants. We don't have it. But you can expect at some point we're going to have to come back and ask for that. What's our greatest and most significant issue? Survival. I don't know how else to put it. The village has done what it can to control outside factors cost. Fire contract and police contract. Both services are required for the village of Cleves to continue operating as a home rule village. If you're not aware, the auditor has been very active. If we're not providing certain services, they will disband us. We won't have to do it ourselves. they will come here and disband us. I'm hoping that this report explains why this is an important understanding for every Clevite. And I say that proudly. There's people who say that mocking it. I consider myself a Clevite. But for now, let's focus on our budget projects. Remember that the old regime projected deficits of $205,248.26, $760,027, $1.3 million in 27. Now those figures are a little smudged on here on the copy. But if you take a look at the first chart, that's Jim Brett's projections. If you come underneath of that, in our projections, which were projected by Mrs. Ozer, which I fully believe is accurate, you'll get an idea that we're not in horrible shape. But as you continue on through this and you go over to page 9, you're going to see the 2030 carryover balance being $306,147. And you can see the bar graph every year is going down. We're not going to be out of business in 26 like we were told. But if we don't have more revenue at some point here, we're not going to make it. You go on to the page 10, there's some more things here for you to look at. At the top of page 10, you have every dollar that we have that's coming in that we count as general fund fees. You can see where it comes from, and you have a bar graph to show you that also. You can see the vast majority comes from property taxes. However, if you want to understand the impact of 2021, the year after, okay, we got rid of our police force. All you got to do is take a look at our tax revenue. Thank you, Ms. Ozer, for getting that together for me. As you can see, in 2020, we had $637,498 in property taxes. 21, it was $654,208. And the year after, we lost $276,939. We have never regained it back. And then on the backside, what you have are other sources of income, and you have a pie graph here. And you'll see that we do get money for streets. We do get money from the state highway. You'll see $36,550. That's what we made last year over at the park. You'll see permissive, $25,207, and then we have our fire and our police levies. That's the money we have. For years, I always heard from residents that lived up in my neighborhood that the village was hiding money. We're not hiding any money. Our books are open, and Cindy, I know you would welcome anybody who questions any of this. So that's sort of it. Except, what's the future of Cleves? That we got to figure out. With that, I'm going to be quiet. I'll answer any questions that residents have. If residents want to comment on the stormwater district or anything like that, or detention ponds, I encourage you to speak to them.
I'd like to add a little bit of history.
Okay.
We used to have a street levy. It was not a big one, maybe 2 mil. I don't remember. I think 2 or 3 mil. And it does help when you submit grant requests for the state to give you grants to help you fix your street. We have to come up with 20, 30% of it, and they pay the rest. It's a great deal. You get extra points when you apply for those grants. If your residents have said, we are supporting the fixing of our streets by having this levy. Doesn't have to be huge, but a street levy helps you get extra points to get things granted, to get the grants we need to fix the streets. It was allowed to roll off the books because we were under tremendous pressure at the time to lower the taxes. And that a decision was made that we would let that fall off the book, and we would take money and appropriate X amount for seed money, which we did. But that's the history of the street levy. It probably has been 20 years.
There's no street level when I came in.
Yeah.
It was went away.
1998 and 1997 is when it took the first year. And I left in 15, so, yeah, we let it roll off the books because of the pressure we were under to lower the tax burden. So, we did used to have one. We had a park levy too at one time.
That's
It
important.
was only 1 mil, but we had a park levy.
Anyone from the audience want to?
So the picture you saw, my name's Joe, right? I live on Edgefield. The picture you saw, detention basin, and I've been at Edgefield. I was the original owner, so I've been there since '04. It didn't look like that in '04. And it's a very long story, and I can't thank Chuck and Dale enough, but I've been asking for help for probably 19 years since then. I've been to the council a long time ago. I've fought with trees pretty much since I learned about what's going on back there, and it's been a problem for me since I've been here. I really, like, the council is really my last hope with help. So I can ask it. I don't know what. I wasn't ready to speak.
What's causing it to hold water?
I'm sorry.
What's causing it to hold water?
So it's hard to imagine, but that's about 15 feet deep. And there's a pipe about that big that catches every drop of water from when you turn on the Laurel, when you turn on the Laurelwood bridge down. Basically, when you turn into the neighborhood, every house on the right side of Laurelwood, and then that first street on the right, all the way down Laurelwood till you get to Edgefield, and then you go down to Edgefield to my house. Every house in that, it's probably 25% of the neighborhood, all goes to that.
So
And
the
it's
pipes are clogged,
And it's a 10-inch pipe.
so it's clogged, basically.
Mary, if I could go a little further on that. There was a landslide back around 2017 on Edgefield Drive. At that time, I believe, pictures showing his detention pond being clean. It wasn't like that. But what happened was that if you go to the stormwater rules, and I'm going to go ahead and put Hamilton County stormwater rules when it comes to erosion control. Please, in my book, even though I guess legally, the legal way, there's a moral and ethical issue here too. We should be out inspecting when things are going on. For those of you that don't know, the sign is up in Coleman Woods. There's a developer that is building wants to build some homes out there. Everything that happens, we should be aware of. We should be watching what's going on in this village. When that landslide happened, you had about 4 to 5 homes that were there. They were shifting. They were sliding down the hill, and some of those residents were ready to walk away, and they actually got an attorney, and they were going to sue Dreams. That never went to court, but there was about a $5 million settlement, and those residents they decide a non-disclosure agreement. How do I know that? Because when I started talking to Joe, I went to the very last resident that still lived there, and he would talk. Yeah, we were made to sign a non-disclosure agreement. After that landslide, when that was happening, I believe there's aerial footage showing the hill and silt running down, filling up his area. That's not his fault.
Right, yeah.
Okay? That was the person who constructed it, because technically that's their responsibility to make sure that erosion control's in place. But I think contractors are like anybody else. If they can get by and take a shortcut, they're gonna take a shortcut.
So where did the money go?
It went to repair the foundations and to build walls to prevent those properties so they didn't slip down the hill, to make those residents whole. But in the process, because of the way the system is set up, his family, and I can't remember, there's 2 or 3 others that
There's 3 other properties up
Yeah.
there.
they all have had their properties damaged by this.
And we have no idea how far the club goes,
We have no idea how.
how far the club goes.
Oh yeah, we know how far it goes.
We do know how far.
Yeah, because how deep did you say that was?
About 10 to 15 feet from the center.
So you're looking, when you see that now, I can tell you, I got a bid on to clean that out, and I couldn't even tell you what it was.
I don't even want to know.
I don't think you do.
On that pipe that he has in there, why and I know that didn't have to do with the sliding, that part of it.
Yeah.
Because whatever they engineered, it split at the house deliveries or whatever. But why is that pipe so small? Who engineered that pipe and made it that small?
I don't think that's the only pipe. Is it?
So the very bottom is a 10-inch pipe that catches everything. And then the design is when it rains real hard, if you look at the picture, it's a mess now, but like the concrete block that you see, there's 2 concrete holes there. So when too much water comes down, it fills up, and if there's too much water there, it goes into these other 2 holes. Like that, it goes up to the top where it just falls into the top. It's like a step up, but it's only supposed to hold water for about 30 minutes, and then it's enough to like just slow it down where then it's gone. But the 10-inch pipe can't take the silt, sticks, all the stuff that comes down. It's a natural creek that they dammed up.
That's the same thing that's behind my house. I mean, it's different because it's not like it's pitched
Yes,
down.
you just
deep.
can't see what it looks like.
Yeah, I can see mine because it's probably the biggest one as far as spread out wise.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it goes through, but I'm saying, and even on that, I mean, for 28 years, every time it rains, I have to go back there, check it, wait, to see if it did, pull all the stuff out.
Yeah,
And it's not just on mine, it's on a couple other people's property.
I did that too until it got unbearable.
Yeah, well,
And
obviously,
it's too
one at a
much.
certain point, it's,
Getting back to your property right now, if they were gonna try to get equipment back there, how would you get anything back there to dig out?
it's got an easement off across from Ponch's, that church right there kind of. And it's got a easement that goes all the way back there. And
How
twice,
easy is it to navigate? Could you get equipment through there right now?
you could, there's a little bit of, just say, trees over the year that came up, not huge trees, but it's flat. They did, I don't know, it's not my property.
Yeah.
But it goes around and they took equipment through there, they parked equipment on it to get it back to that point. Because there was no other way you could get in because of all the pipes and sewer from the street without crushing everything at the cul-de-sac. So they put that easement in down there to get to it.
If I could just say one more thing about this. I've been back there, John's been back there. And I believe when you clean that up after a heavy rain, you're talking about basically trees, logs, big branches.
Yeah, it depends on a storm, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And you wind up having to drag that, if I remember correctly, on a tarp.
Yeah, I mean, part of the time I do. It depends, like I said, on the rain and the storm.
That's
And
true.
before it was pretty deep, there was no way to like mow it or fully clean it out because of the pitch of it. I'm like, no, I go back with the push mower for a while, but then,
Always soupy.
yeah, it would be soupy
Can't really
and
walk
stuff. But,
The it's not something that everybody thinks about when you're buying a home.
Well, the other thing, I'm just bringing up that pipe because Ron also has the storm pipe that comes off our street that goes behind his house into kind of that valley between all the houses. And it's a pretty decent sized pipe. I don't remember why. So let's say it's 24 inches or something like that that goes under. Well, the creek that it follows down to go into there has a 12-inch pipe. Or they made a 12-inch pipe, filled it up with dirt over it, just get the water. But you got a 24-inch pipe dumping water into that, plus all the backyards, all the other things going there. So it makes no sense to me. So what's happened is it keeps washing out more, and over the past 6, 7 years, it's filling up fast compared to what it did in the past.
I used to be able to jump across and my kids would ride their bikes across the creek. Now it's 8 foot down and you can't jump across it. And if there's a little kid, it could get swept away when it's pouring down rain. And that's how fast that water's coming. It's coming all up on the side of Rosewind and the left side of Laurelwood. That's all coming down into my backyard. Washed away everything. The pipe just comes out just in the concrete and stuff. There's no, nothing to stop it from eroding it.
Yeah, and the problem with, like, if we say we trench it out or whatever, to get it back to what it is, you're not stopping the problem of all the stuff that eroded that's flowing into it when you get the heavy, especially like heavy rains. So it just keeps coming and, I'm like, some of it goes through the pipe and eventually ends up, it looks like a snake where it runs through the creek that eventually goes over State Road.
Jessica, you wanted to say something here. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add that I appreciate all of you being here and adding your input. We know it's a grave issue and we have to address it. Part of our stormwater plan that the mayor mentioned in his State of the Village, the biggest part of that was getting our MS4 permit, followed by working with JMA, our contractor, our engineer, to come up with this plan that we're going to vote on this evening. And once it's adopted by Ohio EPA, we'll have a public session. We're going to have to reassess what the annual contribution is for a stormwater assessment that was generally paid on property taxes. Ultimately, we're going to have to come up with a decision with residents in Coleman Woods. Are they going to create some sort of HOA or POA to address this issue? Or are we going to, base our rates for stormwater assessment for Coleman Woods residents so the village can mitigate these issues? So we know it's an issue that should have been fixed a long time ago. Should have been allowed to get to this point. We're working diligently to address it. So in the near future, we'll have a public session. You'll all be invited. And I hope that you'll attend to share with your neighbors the concerns.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I mean,
Questions council members have? Thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I assume we have your contact information?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. We would love to have you, if we do have our public meeting.
Okay, we're on to old business. Meeting the special events coordinating ordinance. You want to take that, Mr. Hagan?
You want me to read it by title only, or read the entire?
Well, I think you can just do by title on this one.
Okay. This will be ordinance 9/2025, an ordinance establishing the position of special events coordinator under the purview of the Parks Committee. This will be the third and final reading, followed by a vote.
Any questions about council? For those of you in the audience, if you're not aware, you did not attend our Christmas walk last winter. There was a lot of hard work that was put into that. And I know Kevin gets upset when I do this, but I still say that Christmas walk wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this man over here. But we did have some hard workers that went out the bushes to make sure it happened. We'd like to make sure that there's a position in the village that takes over that job. Because I know when I talked to Kevin's wife after the last one, I think she was trying to talk you into not going to work or something along those lines. Because it's a lot of worry he puts into that. And the less stress we have on him, the better off we'll be.
If I could just add to that, the Christmas walk brought the community together, and overwhelmingly we heard from residents, non-residents, business owners, any stakeholder, how much they enjoyed being together. The Christmas walk is kind of what highlighted the need for the special events coordinator, but the Christmas walk is also the tip of the iceberg. We're looking to bring summer festivals, working with some of our community partners, Miss Angeline, who's kind of like our forever volunteer. Thank you so much for it. We're bringing the farmers market under the parks this year. And we have many other great initiatives that we're looking to roll out this year and continue to kind of snowball that to bring more and more special events to the village, whether that's concerts or football tournaments, you name it, we're thinking of it. So that's the purpose behind creating this.
If there's no discussion on council, do we have a motion?
I'll mention.
Motion made by Ms. Meyer, second by Mr. Burns. No further discussion? Can you call the roll?
Mr. Burns. Ms. Meyer.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Mr. Babel.
Yeah.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0. We'll move on to new business, Mr. Raby.
First one will be a motion accepting the donation of a vehicle for the local enforcement authority. So this motion will be to accept the donation of a 2008 Ford Crown Victoria from Austin's Autos for use by the village of Cleves. Basically, just to start, trying to get our local authority off the ground as cheap as we can. So with that, Austin's Auto was nice enough to actually reach out to us. We didn't solicit this, and they offered to donate this vehicle, which is in working order. Doesn't have a light bar or anything like that. It's basically just a means of transportation for our local enforcement officers to be able to get to and from and respond to things as they're working.
There won't be lights put on it, will there? I mean, they're not gonna be racing to the scene of anywhere. Why? You were a little hesitant there.
I was just
No,
wondering.
I was just thinking, it's for them to be able to investigate complaints. But I just wanted to clarify that this wasn't, I think people might get confused, right?
It's an unmarked vehicle. It's just a vehicle, a means to drive somewhere. I don't think it would be appropriate for any employee to drive their own personal vehicle, let alone somebody that's in an enforcement capacity driving to the scene somewhere to be invested.
I agree.
So moved.
It's unusual for people to often give us cars.
Look at you. He wants a golf cart.
He doesn't have any golf carts giveaway. No,
Does
so
anybody offer to give us a golf cart?
Austin's Auto, he has a place in Harrison and also a place in Carthage. He actually owns property here in Cleves. He's a former police officer. He just supports the initiative, especially owning property in Cleves, and he reached out to see how he could support, and he offered this.
What is it supposed to be about?
$5,000.
Thanks, I suppose.
I did put in the motion, the letter of appreciation issued to Austin Auto. This is, motion is accepted.
I'll make the motion.
I think we had a motion by
Made by
Mr.
Ted.
Ed, we have a second. Second by Mr. Burns. Any further discussion? Any call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the next one. This is a motion to authorize the, village administrator to execute a contract for year two with the amount of $5,415 for our website. That includes a discount. We pay it full of $471. So that's where the $5,415 comes from. I will be talking with her tomorrow because to get that, we're gonna have to pay for it fairly quickly. And I will be taking over the updating of the website. So when people go to, for example, our landing page, we have all those links. She's gonna be training me on how to do that. So that saves us a considerable amount of money. We have somebody in-house that can do that. I will have nothing to do with the email system or controlling the website. I will only have the ability to update it. So I'll go ahead and answer the questions.
The finance committee did review it at the last finance meeting and
I'd like to make one point. The motion is to not exceed $7,000, as the mayor stated, the amount $5,800 minus $400 pay in full credit for $5,400. There are other initiatives outside of her quote. One being adding our schedule and calendar for the Parks Department on the website, which has been completed. I'll discuss more in my administrator's report. Additionally, we're looking to add other items for zoning, code enforcement. Basically, if you want to develop in Cleves or start a business or have a question about fence, go here, you click whatever you need, access a fence application, whatever it may be. That'll be some additional hours, which is why there's a difference in this motion being 7,000 and 5,800 that the mayor mentioned. I just wanted to clarify why I wrote it for not to exceed 7,000.
Well, there'll be an additional cost when we get the emergency notification system up and running. That's, if you try to inform people along with the website also.
The only cost associated with that will be the creation of an additional email account, which is like $5.
There'll be a link on the site to see local ordinances.
Yep, so that's, once we get legal, once we get to the whole codification, there'll be a hyperlink. And that'll be on there. Click that, you'll be able to access the entire web. And that updates every month this weekend, so it's just all on there.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to authorize Justin to sign contract with IPAM?
so moved.
Motion made by Ms. Bolton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meister. Any further discussion? I need to call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Ms. Bolton, Steve, would you like me to discuss that, or would you like to take that? I know you were involved in this. I can handle it. I don't want to put you on the spot. It's the transfer of funds.
Yeah, no, I'll do it. The park needs money up front at the beginning of the season for certain expenses, and they don't always finish the year with enough money to start the next year. So the request was made to finance that we advance some money from the general fund to the park fund, and that they would pay it back. That's what an advance is. If we were transferring money to the park that they didn't have to pay back, it would just be a transfer of funds. We talked about both options. Talked about you know, the fact that they really need the startup money to order passes, to get some equipment needed. So this is a resolution that would transfer, what was the final amount, 12,000?
It's an advance of $12,000.
From the general fund to the park fund, and it will be paid back as the year progresses and the revenue is brought in from the selling of passes. So, did I explain that okay enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to give you the first crack. I'll just add that the $12,000 is like, as Ms. Bolton said, that's for park passes, wall dirt, purchase new signs. Sometimes after a flood, we have to rent a water truck, which costs a couple $1,000s to spray off the roadways, disinfect our park equipment. Additionally, and something we'll be voting on after this, for consideration is the purchase of that standalone field track. So that's the reasoning behind this.
Would I have to come back when I advance it back? I'm not sure how village works. When I advance it back, do I need to bring it to a council meeting or I can just advance it back?
That'd probably be a Rob question, but I did include in this resolution, section 2, this advance shall be returned to the general fund, parks fund upon, maturation of parks fund revenue during the current season.
Right, okay.
So I don't think you want
Okay.
that.
I would just communicate with you and
Yep,
say, hey, I'm
just as
doing
soon
it.
as we get that, we're comfortable with our balance at parks. we'll get to it.
And I would make copies of that resolution,
Oh.
and every time you advance a portion back, I'll attach a copy of that.
Right, yeah.
So that it's a clear cut road to the payback.
Yep,
Maybe just make a notification that it happened at council meeting. That way there's a public record.
oh, true, yeah,
Or you could put it on the bills list.
yeah,
That advance.
that, I advanced it back, right.
We'll make sure that we let you know, one way or another. We'll let finance committee know when it's paid back, and I can include it in my administrator's report, or you can put it in yours.
You can always reach out to the state auditors and ask them what the best practice is for that. Under the product. We didn't do that very often.
What number resolution is this? Ben?
6.
Resolution 6, 2025.
You get me a copy of
Is there any
it, it's all
further
right.
discussion on that council needs to do? So do I have a motion to approve resolution number 6-2025?
So moved.
Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to suspend the rules then. So what we're gonna, I need a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. A resolution authorizing the transfer of funds as an advance from the general fund to the parks fund. That's resolution number 6-2025.
And the amount of $12,000. So moved to
Suspend the rules.
suspend the rule.
All right. Yeah. Second by Mr. Burns, and the first motion was made by Mrs. Bolton. Any further discussion? Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Meister?
Yes.
Mr. Babel?
Yeah.
Ms. Bolton?
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0. Now we need a motion to approve resolution number 6-2025, a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds as an advance from the general fund to the parks fund in the amount of $12,000.
So moved.
Motion, by Ms. Bolton, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Burns. Any further discussion? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Meister?
Yes.
Mr. Babel?
Yeah.
Ms. Bolton?
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0. And, you want to give it a little background as far as resolution, this will be number 7, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, will be so.
Resolution number 7-2025.
And I apologize, I don't have the, gentleman's name in front of me. He is with. It's our current company that provides our electric to the education program. Basically, this, yes, they're different times of this year, but I had to sign an agreement so they could basically authorize me to speak with Duke and get some numbers to start the bid process. This resolution would be authorizing me, and I'll speak on both of them here. The very next one's going to be for the aggregation of natural gas. So one's electric, the next one will be for natural gas. This just allows me to enter into an agreement for the purchase of electricity. And really, the greatest need for that, based on my conversation, is the volatility of the market. When they lock a price and they can only lock it in for an hour, two at the most. And so it's a matter of where they need to call, then I need to be able to execute that contract at the most competitive rate they can get. And his name's Jordan Harmon, is the gentleman. He works for AGE Priority Power. That's who we currently use.
What was that company again?
AGE Priority Power.
Are there other companies that could be offering lower rates that we can, or is it, pretty much this is who we've used and?
There's a handful of companies that do this sort of thing. I think Miami Township uses a different one, and they're currently in that same process right now. From my understanding, they're all pretty much equally competitive.
In the past, the way it worked was the person that would put it out for bids, like in the past, we have gone together with other municipalities to get a better price.
And that's a good point. Yes, we are. So we're not going at this solo with AGE. Thank you for that. This is 8 other communities. One of them is Indian Hill. I believe Wyoming is also included.
Green Township.
Cheviot. I don't think Green Township is. I know Cheviot is. I know Lockland, Wyoming, and Indian Hill are all. And I could get you a comprehensive list of the 8 that we work with.
Even if you get a better competitive bid.
Yeah.
Having your.
I just know there's other companies that are doing the same thing.
This is opt-in, opt-out.
Yes. So residents can opt out if they like. They'll be
But
given-
they're automatically in.
They're automatically.
If they don't respond,
They do
will
not
be-
opt in. Yeah. But they can opt out.
What's the
Okay.
projected savings over just regular dude?
I just signed that
Until we,
agreement.
until they come back to us with numbers, we don't know.
They'll go out and test them. Once they're able to communicate with Duke, which they, late last week, I signed that. This was the next step. In the coming weeks or month, I would assume, they'll have some numbers to show what the trend is, where they think they can lock us in, versus what Duke's price is. So hopefully next meeting, I'll be able to provide that information to you on what the estimated savings will be.
So, and then that will automatically go to like our bills as well.
Yeah, so if by adopting this resolution, Cleves is allowing that aggregate company AG to come in and basically buy wholesale energy and distribute it to our customers. You're automatically opted in. Once we determine our rate and move to that point, there will be correspondence that goes up to everyone. You have to opt out.
But I know that there's been people, like I've had a couple people even come into my business who have been offering the same type of thing, like level, so. But
Right,
I guess you would
I
have
don't
to
know the
opt in,
legality of
but
that.
The reason that everybody's automatically opted in is, I don't remember the year, but years ago, it was put on the ballot. And the residents voted to go with an aggregation. Okay. For the gas and the electric. That's why everybody's automatically opted in.
But then if somebody found one like that and came to their door that could get that pricing, they still have those.
I probably know the answer to this, Justin, but just that you might want to get some type of clarification. There are some people in the village of Cleves that have their own solar panels on their houses and stuff like that. I don't know whether there'll be an issue with that, with this or not. Just something you might want to touch base with them.
Yeah, sure. I think that the only issue that may arise is if they're selling energy back. I don't know how that works. I'll look into it.
I know somebody of mine.
I don't think most of the residential ones generated.
You sell back to them?
Yeah. So
You don't do it, it just happens.
I get credits back. That's why I'm asking, because there's other people in the village that have solar on their houses.
They do. I'll look into that. I'll have much more information. This gentleman reached out to the mayor and I, really needed the ball rolling to catch. So we were able to renew by August. So I don't have a ton of information. I will have much more in our next council meeting to report on.
Do I have a motion to suspend the rules for resolution number 7-2025, authorizing the administrator to enter an agreement for the purchase of electricity for the village of Cleves electric aggregation program?
I'll make that motion to introduce the suspend the rules and read by title only resolution number 7/2025 as stated by Mayor Burke.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meyer. Any further discussion? Any call the vote, please?
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister, Ms. Meister,
I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Thank you.
Motion passes 5-0. Now I need a motion to approve resolution number 7-2025. A resolution authorizing the administrator to enter into an agreement for the purchase of electricity for the village of Cleves electric aggregation program. Do I have a motion?
I'll now make that motion to adopt resolution 7/2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Burns. Any further discussion? Any please call the roll.
Mr. Burns, Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Same exact language.
Virtually the same type of resolution, except for this is resolution number 8-2025. That resolution, I'm asking to suspend the rules. The resolution authorizing the administrator to enter into an agreement for the purchase of natural gas for the village of Cleves natural gas aggregation program. Read it by title only. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to introduce and read by title only, suspend the rules and read by title only, resolution 8/2025.
Motion made by Ms. Meister. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Babel. Any further discussion? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Motion passes 5-0. Now we need a motion to adopt resolution number. Is this number 7? I'm sorry, 8-2025. Resolution authorizing the administrator to enter into an agreement for the purchase of natural gas for the village natural gas aggregation program.
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution 8/2025.
Motion made by Ms. Meister. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Babel. Any further discussion? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0. Now, this one, the next ordinance, this ordinance for number 9. This is
10,
it's number 10.
10.
Yeah, we're on 10.
Mhm.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
all right. Ordinance number 10.
9 was the third reading.
2025. This one also I'm going to be asking you, because this is important. We cannot finish our plan. Jennifer she sent me an electronic copy, but she is going to have to insert this ordinance in for us to be able to meet the deadline for April 1st. So this ordinance is really only going to have one reading. And it basically readopts the Hamilton County stormwater districts, but this time it's called Phase 2 Stormwater Rules for Small Municipal Separate Stormwater Sewer Systems. Dischargers of stormwater from small MS4 must obtain a NPDES permit from the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. So it models right after, okay, the actual, regulations, but it also mentions the Federal Water Pollution Control Act as it was amended by 33 USC 1251 and the Ohio Water Pollution Control Act under Ohio Revised Code Chapter 6111. And they also mentioned in there the Administrative Code Chapter 3745-39. So I'm asking that we suspend the rules for ordinance number 10 and ordinance adopting and accepting the rules and regulations of the Hamilton County Stormwater District and declaring it an emergency. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to introduce and suspend the rules and read by title only ordinance number 10/2025 as stated by Ms. Mayor Burton.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Babel. Any further discussion?
Yeah, did I hear you mention that we were gonna do this as a reading?
No. We gotta pass it. today.
Okay, all right.
We have got to do it by emergency because we can't file our plan.
Okay.
Penny, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yeah,
Ms. Bolton.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0. Now I would like to have a motion to adopt ordinance number 10. An ordinance adopting and accepting the rules and regulations of the Hamilton County Stormwater District and declaring it an emergency.
I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance number 10/2025.
Motion made by Ms. Meister. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Babel. Any further discussion? Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
yeah,
Ms. Bolton.
yay.
Ordinance passes 5-0. Thank you very much for doing that. It's a very important thing for our village so that we can be in compliance. Mr. Haley, do you want to introduce ordinance number 11-2025? Are we doing this as a suspend the rules too, or no?
Yes. The ordinance authorizing the purchase of a John Deere field drag from Southeast Turf Equipment Incorporated. Suspending the rules. Yeah, declaring it an emergency. This passed through the Parks Committee, Finance Committee. This is a part of the reasoning behind the $12,000 that we have voted to approve to front the parks. This field drag is really, it's a necessity for us to be able to provide the type of fields that are needed for baseball, softball, track to play on. Additionally, our only ability to drag fields right now is by a trailer piece of equipment that our Kubota drags. Daniel and I, our parks coordinator, did that last night together. And that Kubota just cannot do it. I mean, it made it through less than half a field before it overheated. And it took Daniel close to 4 hours to drag the fields last night. Our Kubota just can't handle it. It can't manage it. So this piece of equipment is really just part of continued efforts to do a good job, manicure our fields, facilitate our community partners. Any questions on that?
It's a cost of 12,000, correct?
The cost on the piece of equipment is $11,000, with $1,000 for shipping coming from Georgia. It's a fully rehab piece of equipment. It has a warranty. A new piece of equipment like this, if you can even find them, to really find them new, would be $25,000 plus.
Could you share with the audience and council as far as manpower hours, the difference?
Yes, I mean, this is a matter of either myself or our parks coordinator being able to hop on to a piece of equipment, drag a field, anywhere from 4 to 7 minutes per field, versus attaching this trailer piece of equipment to our Kubota, driving it across the village to the park, spending roughly 4 to 5 hours to drag it, driving it back. That would have to be done 3 times a week. That's at least 15 hours from one of our service department workers every week. Whereas it would take less than 30 minutes to drag all of this piece of equipment. Savings from our employee cost alone will pay for this in a year.
Yeah, this was thoroughly discussed during the finance committee as well and approved.
Any other questions? Then if there are no questions, I would ask that we suspend the rules for ordinance number, this is 11? 11-2025, read by title only, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a John Deere field drag from Southeast Turf Equipment and declaring it an emergency.
So moved.
Motion made by Mrs. Bolton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meyer. Any further discussion? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns, Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yeah.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0. Now I need a motion to adopt ordinance number 11-2025, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a John Deere field drag, Southeast Turf Equipment Incorporated, and declaring it an emergency.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bolton. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is that you, Ms. Meister?
Yes.
Second by Ms. Meister. Any further discussion? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yeah.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Okay, before we go on to the next one, because this is gonna be another declaring an emergency, I would like, Mr. Havey to give us a little bit of advanced information as to why this ordinance is coming tonight and we declare an emergency.
So ordinance 12-2025 is an ordinance to establish the position of mayor's court clerk and declaring it an emergency. Part of our continued efforts to bring back our local authority, which the council voted to approve in December, appointing me town marshal in January. From that point, I've worked with the Ohio Attorney General, the Regional Crime Information Center, Ham County Communication Center, do the procedural and background work to reestablish ourselves as a local law enforcement authority. We've come to the time in that process where I need to bring on a mayor's court clerk so they can start to implement the mayor's court. Also, they need to be able to communicate with leads, RCIC, basically criminal justice information system. It's how they basically their computer system. I'm looking to bring on the mayor's court clerk to start implementing their policies, procedures, formalize the mayor's court, and collaborating with RCIC and leads to establish a criminal justice connection.
This is a part-time position, right? Hourly?
To be a part-time hourly position.
And what's the expected number of hours needed, do you think, per month?
It may be more upfront. I'll balance that to stay within our limitations for the local authority of $50,000 or $60,000 revenue budgeted. So this year there may be more hours than normal for the mayor's court clerk just to get some of the administrative stuff is running. But once all that's done, I see it being 10 hours, maybe 12 hours per week.
Per week? Even though we're meeting once a month?
They meet once a month, but they have to set the docket. As payments come in, they have to process them. And this was all, it was
So you're anticipating 40 hours a month?
potentially.
Okay.
And that was budgeted in the
Okay,
proposal.
I didn't remember.
It may be less. I don't want to, it really all depends on the amount of cases, and especially moving forward with Mr. Lenenschmidt's backlog, probably 150 plus. There's going to be an influx in the end.
Okay.
So probably.
Just refreshing my memory.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think the qualifications are gonna be for that?
Somebody who has extensive experience using the type of software associated with mayor's court, Baldwin, industry standard. And right before you came along, we were trying to figure out how we could accomplish this. It's ultimately led us to need to establish a police authority. We tried to contract with Baldwin and start a mayor's court without a law enforcement authority. we found we couldn't do that. So say all I have to say, our mayor's court's going to use Baldwin software, basically how we create dockets, how we process cases. Somebody who's fluent in that software. I think there's a few people local that are interested in that have a strong background knowledge. Additionally, it has to be somebody who has background check, they have CJIS clearance, they can access law enforcement databases. Somebody that's certified as a user, an attack, a terminal agency coordinator through the Leeds RCIC system. Those are all kind of the preferred qualifications.
Any questions, council? Then, what I'd like, this is ordinance one, ordinance number 12, 2025, I'd like to suspend the rules. Ordinance establishing the position of mayor's court clerk and declaring it an emergency. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Meister, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Meyer. Any further discussion? Ready, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yeah.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Motion passes 5-0. Now I need to have a motion to adopt ordinance number, lost track, number 12-2025. An ordinance establishing the position of mayor's court clerk and declaring it an emergency. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Meister.
Ordinance 1225.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Meyer. Any further discussion? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel, Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
5-0, it passes, and I want to thank the council for doing that. This has been a long, hard road getting to the point we're in. We can actually start dealing with quality of life issues in our village. I'm sure that this was, I know Mr. Walters will be excited about this as well. Okay, Mr. Hagan, you want to go ahead and do your administrator's report for 5 minutes?
Yeah, I say we're working on record timing, so I'm gonna zoom through this one. By doing, it's better that we do these towards the end because we cover a lot of what I would have talked about. But one of the items I'd like to discuss is the IT infrastructure overhaul here in the municipal building. When I first came along, we were just in the process of changing the internet over at our service department. That's been working. Challenging process to implement it over at the waterworks. We've got that sorted out, and so we've moved on to the municipal building. Last Friday and again on Monday, I worked with our IT vendor to overhaul our entire infrastructure here at the municipal building. You'll see we have a new access point here. We have 2 other access points in the building, which basically gives us adequate Wi-Fi throughout the entire building. We've also put a data port in over there behind the computer, which gives us a LAN connection to make sure we have stable internet at all times so we can stream this. Hopefully they still see us. Hello.
Yes.
The most challenging part was working through the rat's nest down in the boiler room, our IT room. That took a great amount of time. Now we have an actual cabinet that locks, that's climate controlled with fans, so hopefully it'll keep our equipment in better working order. And really, while it was important for us to have adequate internet here for council usage and our guests that are in attendance, it was really necessary to take that next step towards creating a law enforcement authority. The next step will be when RCIC leads come in, basically audit us to make sure we have the security protocols in place to have access to their system. The next and final step of that will be reaching out to vendors, probably Alta Fiber, and signing a new contract to increase the speed, and just get a better product overall, serves our needs. Next is a local law enforcement reactivation. As I discussed, I've collaborated with the Ohio Attorney General's office to reactivate our law enforcement authority. Been working with Hampton County Comm Center in partnership with RCIC and Leeds to facilitate the reestablishment of all of our services. Really, we're at the mercy of their timeline. April may be a lofty goal, but I still feel very confident that by early May, we should be off the ground running. And if we're not able to address the criminal matters at that point, we will, at a minimum, be able to address the civil ones and have hearings for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Waterworks efficiency and auditing, completed comprehensive audit of all of our accounts in every parcel in our water district to improve our efficiency and operations, to ensure that there were no instances of theft of services. I want to credit our parks coordinator, also our new waterworks employee, Mr. Gilligan, for doing that. I mean, Daniel really took the initiative here. There's no way that I thought it would get done that quickly. And Daniel, I mean, he never ceases to amaze me. Daniel made sure, whether it required him to walk it or use cages to his benefit, we were able to look at every parcel in Miami Township, Whitewater Township, North Bend, and Cleves, and make sure that they, all our consumers were paying for service 2 weeks. So thank you to him for that. I've also been working with our law director, Rob, field supervisor, and our administrative clerk. We've issued a handful of policies and procedures just to really enhance our procedures and make sure that we're capturing the revenues we should and that we're providing the customer service that I demand. So we'll continue to optimize our service delivery on our waterworks infrastructure. I'll update you again next month. Fire service contract had many back and forth meetings and negotiations to try to get a sustainable contract and agreement in place. I think we'll discuss that later this evening. Been working with Councilman Babel and the Helms County Emergency Notification partners to establish an ENS system. What's an ENS system? For a layperson, it basically gives us the ability, if you opt in the event of an emergency, a styrene leak, a boil water advisory, tornado, fire, flood, I say, if a grizzly bear's coming and we know it, or a grizzly bear's inside and we got to get out, we have the ability to let you know how to act most appropriately. So that's an initiative from Councilman Babel. We sent out, I think you drafted a letter, and the mayor's placed that on our website and other social media avenues. So we'll be updating that and looking to implement it as soon as possible. I hope by late spring, early summer. So parks and recreation initiatives. We're preparing to open the parks Monday, March 17th, to start practices, and that'll be a new course record for us. So our service department has really busted their tails the past 2 weeks to get it done. Friday, they're gonna drive out and get some ball dirt just to kind of one over and make sure that they're groomed, manicured. Daniel and I will be out there Friday evening. We're gonna laser the fields. Dale, if you're free and you wanna join, bring your equipment. I'll bring the beer. Seriously, I said earlier, we purchased over $2,000 in equipment. This is permanent home plates. So these basically, when you set up a field, it all goes off your foul poles and home plates. So we're gonna install these permanent home plates, permanent foul poles, and then there's kind of like a hub you can place into the ground where you can just throw a base in, first, second, third base, and you can set a field up in short order. And really, it's important so these bases don't go flying everywhere. It implements a safety base. It's really what we should have been doing. This just brings us up with the times. Additionally, we're going to purchase a storage locker that only TRCAA and the village and other trusted parks have access to. It'll store all that equipment.
When you say permanent home plate, they can still take the home plate up and store it, right?
It's buried into the ground, so in clay. So it's about that deep, and you bury it in clay, and it stays there.
Okay.
It's a fixture. Yeah, if anyone would like in your free time, you can access our website and go to the parks page. You can look at our recently added schedule for all of our parks activities related to ball fields. Come soccer season, this will just be an additional tab you can click, and you'll be able to look at your schedule and who's on what field, what time of day. Additionally, there's a mechanism there for live reporting of field conditions. If it rains and teams don't know, do I have practice or not? Is the park open? Is it not open? You can go there and find it. I worked with our parks coordinator yesterday. We created an X account, Twitter account. We shared that with our TRCA partners and other teams that come in. They followed us on X now. And so if there's ever a question, is our park open? Is it not open? Do I practice or not? They'll be able to find it there. So and that came with the recommendation of TRCA, and I just highlight that. We've really been able to communicate back and forth what works best for them and how they think they can help us out. So
The pitching rubbers though won't be permanent, right? Because
No,
the distance
that's 2
changes.
nails. Yep, 2 nails on each side.
And those will be stored after. the
That'll go
game.
in that locker, and then
Okay.
the lockers will be locked. Yep. Last on my list is employee health and wellness. We're not required to have annual biometric screenings, but it does give our employees a discount if they do it. It's at no cost for the village. The due date on that is Saturday. Thank you. So, yeah, 'cause you're going.
Yes,
So,
just got blood work done, but we're gonna do it again.
Our insurance rates by having our employees.
the employees get a reduced portion,
Of their portion.
but not the. Yep, so, I believe that by Saturday, everybody will have that done, that elected. And, you in the crowd that has to go Saturday, I apologize for, the late notice on that. I learned this when I onboarded a new employee, and not that it's necessarily important to anyone other than you, but we work through the Center for Local Government through Jefferson Health Plan, and there's like a mediary in between that kind of facilitates. They were forced out, a new company came in, so everything's changing. So, there was shorter notice than usual, but I hope it works better moving forward. I have a training coming up in 2 weeks, to learn how to use that software on the back end for onboarding and other things like this. With that, I'll offer it up unless you have questions for me, council. 7 minutes.
Good job. Okay, next on the agenda is I'm asking for a motion to enter into an executive session preparing for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment by Division G4 of Section 121.2 of the Ohio Revised. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Mr. Vega,
Second.
second by Ms. Meyer. Any discussion? Any call the roll?
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Meister,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yeah.
Ms. Bolt.
Yeah.
Motion passes 5-0.
We're sitting on the other side of the man now.